On my birthday I rushed around all day, and by evening I decorated the apartment and laid out a home-cooked spread. Then, while I waited for the food went cold, I received a message from Julian, business trip. Don't wait up. A minute later I saw Sophie's Instagram update, a photo of Julian with his sleeves rolled up, wearing an apron, busy in someone else's kitchen. Caption, may this moment last forever. The sight drained every last appetite from me. I double-tapped the post, heated the plates, and ate alone. My phone buzzed non-stop but I ignored it. By the time I finished, Julian had called 32 times. Finally he left a voice note, Haley, I'm coming home to explain. Don't overthink it, we've got years of birthdays ahead of us. I didn't reply. I only wondered whether those years actually existed. Before we go on, subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling us where you're listening from. Julian showed up 3 days later. I was sprawled on the sofa binge-watching a series when he walked in. You didn't see my messages? He asked, startled. I didn't lift my eyes. I saw them. Got busy, forgot to answer. He stared, disbelieving. In the past I would have sprinted downstairs half an hour early just to greet him. After a pause he said, I haven't eaten all day, just throw something together. He's picky, high-speed rail boxed meals disgust him. Usually I'd have 3 dishes waiting. The episode ended, I glanced at the takeout flyer on the coffee table. Saw this in the mailbox, new place, coupon inside. His face darkened. I'm starving. Can you stop sulking long enough to cook? I frowned. We can order in. And I'm not sulking. He barreled on. Sophie's alone in the next town, how could I not help her as a friend? He rubbed his temples. I'm exhausted, I don't have the energy to coddle you. I sighed. Then rest. I'm not asking for comfort. He swallowed, breath accelerating, I knew the signs. After a minute he yanked a Jif. Tea box from his carry-on and tossed it at me. Birthday present. Satisfied? I set it on the coffee table. Thanks. He stood unmoving, then glowered. And? I remembered our rule, whoever's birthday it is, the other brings a gift. Oops, got sucked into my drama, forgot yours, I said, sheepish. I'll make it up later. Venmo transfer okay? His eyes bored into me, embarrassed, I sent the money and checked my watch, then went to the bedroom for my jacket. When I came out he blinked. You're leaving? You dressed up to go out, not for me? I looked at him oddly. You always say makeup at home is pointless. Why would I greet you in full face? Without waiting for an answer I opened the door. Where are you going? He caught my arm. Meeting Stella and the girls. I left, ignoring his expression. Julian dislikes my loud, flashy friends, he thinks bars are tasteless and wants me home early. I never abandoned them, but I used to tiptoe around his moods, leaving gatherings early, skipping second rounds, so every night out felt half-finished. Tonight I didn't have to care. When I told Stella my plan, the girls exchanged glances, they knew how crazy in love I'd been. Now that I'd sobered up, yielding my identity for a man felt embarrassingly stupid. Why hadn't I woken sooner? We laughed till late, I posted street-style photos on Instagram. I got home at 3 a.m. Julian sat on the sofa, face like thunder. Haley, how old are you? Throwing tantrums like a teenager? Coming in at this hour, have you no shame? My eyelids were glue, I stepped around him toward the bedroom. He blocked my path. Enough. Sophie and I are history. There's nothing now, nothing ever again. You don't need to punish me. Also, he added, I don't want you out past curfew again. I yawned. You're overthinking. I'm not jealous, not punishing. And I'm done with curfews. His face hardened. Stop pushing it. I'm not your parent, I won't indulge you forever. I had no energy left. I brushed past, locked the bedroom door, and collapsed. My last drowsy thought was whether I should take the guest room and leave him the master, but before the sentence finished I was asleep. I slept straight through till morning, dreamless. While I brushed my teeth Julian emerged from the bedroom, face stony, treating me like furniture. I didn't grab his hand or rush to explain, just kept to my own routine. Just as I was heading to the kitchen, the front door slammed so hard the frame shook. Honestly, even the sturdiest door can't take that kind of abuse. I made myself a quick breakfast, ate, and left for Sterling Heart. The moment I reached the office I went straight to Donovan's door, hand poised to knock, when I heard, Haley, you're early. I turned, Donovan was right behind me. I'd beaten even my boss to work. Inside her office I told her I was ready to accept the overseas transfer. The opportunity had been on the table for weeks, and she had pushed hard for my career's sake, but each time I'd refused because I couldn't bear to be away from Julian for that long. Donovan brightened at the news, then asked with gentle concern, things settled on the boyfriend front? I shook my head. I'm ending it. Thank heavens Sophie had done me the favor of jolting me awake. Starting today I would begin handing over my files and sorting everything required for the move abroad. The day flew by. When I finally stepped outside, the sky was already dark. I decided to spare myself the empty apartment and ate out before going home. When I walked in, Julian was standing in the foyer, a bouquet in his right hand, phone pinned to his left ear. The princess rarely graces Riverdale, so of course I'm rolling out the red carpet. Don't worry, I'll make sure Her Highness is delighted. Go ahead and order, I'll be right there. Right, today was Sophie's birthday. His face was soft with a fond, pampering smile, the kind he had never once aimed at me. With me he was always distant. When he did smile it was thin, fleeting. Once, when I complained, he'd replied calmly that he wasn't used to showing emotion. Now I understood, it wasn't habit he lacked, the right recipient had simply never been me. He hung up, the smile still clinging to his lips, but the instant he saw me it evaporated. Without a word he stepped around me, flowers in hand, and shut the door with the same cold indifference. He was still punishing me for yesterday's coolness, freezing me out the way he always did. What he didn't know, what he couldn't yet grasp, was that, just like this morning, his disregard no longer rattled me. I ordered takeout, ate, and then pulled out the German I'd neglected for months. I still spoke the language, but rust collects fast. I needed to knock it off before the relocation. When my eyes needed a break I scrolled Instagram and sure enough Sophie had updated. Grateful to the universe for bringing you to me beneath it, Julian's friends had carpet-bombed the post with heart-eyed blessings. They'd always rooted for him and Sophie, and they made no secret of disliking me. They never said it outright, yet they found 1,000 tiny ways to rub my face in it. Once I'd vented to Julian, and he'd answered, then try harder to win them over. I refreshed and saw Julian had left only a smiling emoji. Suddenly and it popped up, one of his friends tagging me. Heads up, so you don't pick a fight with Julian later. The rest of us are there, it's just a normal group thing. I snorted, typed okay, tossed the phone aside, washed up, and went to bed. In the dead of night the overhead light snapped on. I blinked into the glare to find Julian staring down at me. You're unbelievable, he snapped. I've been out all night and not one message from you. Every other guy's phone was blowing up, girlfriends, wives dragging them home, while I stood there like an idiot waiting. I'd been sleeping hard and wasn't thrilled to be jerked awake. You're a grown man hanging out with free NDS, of course I trust you. It's late, go to bed. In the past, whenever he met Sophie, I'd throw tantrums, pepper him with calls and texts even if I'd grudgingly agreed to let him go. He'd finally explode, this is our circle, none of your business. Please, Haley, give me some air. Now he stood frozen, then grabbed my arm as I tried to lie back down. We need to talk. I looked at him, exhausted. He inhaled sharply. That Instagram post is just a group photo thing, nothing more. Don't read into it. Yes, Sophie and I dated, but it's ancient history. If it bothers you, I'll bring you to every party from now on. I nodded, eyelids drooping. Got it. Can I sleep now? Julian said nothing more. He exhaled, moved to climb onto the bed, and I flinched. What are you doing? He stiffened, shot me a frigid glare, strode out, and kicked the master bedroom door shut behind him. After the disruption I feared I'd lie awake, but my head hit the pillow and I was out within minutes. I got along with my coworkers, and they insisted on a farewell dinner before I left. I accepted gladly. Mid-meal I slipped out to the ladies' room, and nearly collided with Julian leading his own Sterling Heart group to a private room, Sophie glued to his side. He really was taking care of her, he'd even brought her to a corporate outing. I felt nothing, no stab of jealousy, no twist in my gut, only the distant thought that if I'd wised up sooner, I could have spared myself months of ache. Sophie spotted me, smile widening in triumph. Haley, fancy meeting you here. Don't get the wrong idea, I've been so bored in town that Julian let me tag along to liven things up. Julian's colleagues knew me, their eyes flicked between us, awkward and pitying. I gave a soft turned, and walked back to my own party. The moment I sat down after walking in, Julian's text popped up. We don't bring her to every Sterling Heart dinner, just this once. Well, duh. Usually Sophie isn't even in Riverdale. I get that. It looks wrong. Next time she won't come. Whether it's right or wrong is no longer my business. The next few texts were more of the same. The last one asked what time I'd be done so we could ride home together. I slipped the phone back into my bag and didn't answer. Everyone ate and chatted, the vibe stayed warm. Toward the end, a colleague raised his glass and joked, "When Haley comes back from abroad, do we have to call her Director Sterling?" I laughed, lifted my own glass, and shot back, "Stop teasing, maybe I'll still be begging you for a job when I return." Laughter rippled around the table. When the party broke up and I stepped into the corridor, I found Julian staring at me, eyes bloodshot. Sophie clutched his arm while she glared daggers my way. Julian ignored her. His voice shook. "You're moving abroad?" I frowned. He must have overheard the table talk. But we'd mentioned the overseas transfer half an hour ago. Had he been waiting here the whole time? My coworkers felt the awkwardness and asked if I needed backup. I thanked them and said I could handle it, so they said goodnight and reminded me to call if anything came up. "Answer me, Haley," Julian said, panic flickering in his eyes. "You're really leaving the country?" I nodded. He'd find out sooner or later. "Why didn't you tell me first? If I hadn't accidentally heard, how long were you going to hide it?" "Well, I was going to mention it, but I've been crazy busy with handoffs, and you've looked swamped too. Thought there was no need to bother you with something so minor." Hurt flashed across his face. "Minor? You're my girlfriend. Anything, big or small, you should tell me. How is that a bother?" "Oh? Didn't you once say not to bug you with every trivial thing?" Normally I wouldn't drag up ancient history. After all, the breakup paperwork was already stamped in my head. Maybe the cocktails loosened my tongue, because one look at his face and the sarcasm slipped out. There'd been a time I told Julian everything, every weird cloud, every random thought, only to have him sigh in irritation and tell me to dial down the oversharing. My blow-by-blow updates were nothing but digital clutter to him. Julian opened his mouth, then managed, "When do you leave?" Not right away, I hope?" Roughly 6 months, I said offhand. I lied. I had no idea why my departure date suddenly mattered to him, but I wasn't about to admit I'd be gone in 4 weeks. His shoulders loosened. "I'm done here, let's head home together." Before I could refuse, Sophie pressed a hand to her temple and leaned against him. "Julian, I'm so dizzy, must be the wine." Julian tried to pry her off, flustered. This has never happened before. We don't usually get this close. She's just drunk." Her theatrics and his panic were almost funny, but truth or act, I no longer cared. "Sure, I get it." Sophie wrapped both arms around his neck, clinging harder. Julian peeled at her wrists, failed, and gave me a helpless look. "Haley, she can't go home alone like this. Let me drop her off first, okay?" Sophie squeezed tighter at the green light. Relieved I wouldn't have to share a car with him, I chirped, "Sounds good." Julian started to say more, but I'd already turned away. While I waited for my ride, I studied the night sky. A faint ache fluttered through me, then the river breeze swept it off. Turns out walking away from Julian wasn't as hard as I'd feared. Back home, his texts arrived. "Sophie still feels sick. Scared she'll choke or something, so I'll stay on her couch tonight." I blinked. Explanations from Julian were nothing short of miraculous. In the past, asking where he was or when he'd be back earned a scolding. "Can you stop interrogating me like my mother? I don't owe you a minute-by-minute log." I'd apologize profusely, and only after sufficient groveling would he forgive me, while reminding me never to pester him again. I answered with a single one to show I'd seen eye. He fired off another, "Don't overthink, I'm crashing on the living room couch. Nothing will happen." I didn't bother replying and went to bed. The cocktails knocked me out. I slept like lead and woke near noon. Too late for breakfast, too early for lunch. I ordered 1 large bowl of extra spicy rice noodles, plus a fried egg and drumstick. I was slurping happily when Julian walked in. He sniffed, brows pinching. I knew that wrinkle, he hates chili. He'd banned it from the apartment, throwing mini tantrums if I dared bring spice home. So I braced for an outburst. Instead he smiled. "Takeout grease bombs aren't healthy. Next time you want heat, I'll cook it for you." He pulled out a chair and launched into complaint mode. "That couch killed my back. And Sophie, what a diva, puking 1 second, demanding water the next." I kept my tone flat. "You two go way back. Taking care of her is the decent thing, no need to whine." Julian's cheeks colored. After a pause he said, "Right, Wesley's wedding is next Saturday. Let's go together." I stared at him in surprise. Wesley had always been the one among his friends who disliked me the most. He used to insist I had come between Julian and Sophie. Whenever the guys threw a birthday dinner, picked up the tab, organized a trip, or planned anything wedding-related, I was never invited. Julian simply showed up with Sophie on his arm. A wave of resignation washed over me. In the past I would have accepted eagerly, promising to be on my best behavior so his circle would finally accept me. Instead, I said, listlessly, not going. I'll only end up reading their faces, and what's the fun in that? Julian hadn't expected the refusal. He floundered for a second. Why would they? You're my girlfriend. Don't worry, anyone who gives you attitude answers to me. He sounded absolutely convinced. But Julian, have you forgotten? When Wesley picked me apart in front of you, you pressed my hand and warned me with your eyes not to make a scene. You all eyes knew exactly how your friends felt about me, you just didn't care. I swallowed the last spoonful of soup. I've got something on Saturday, ask Sophie to go. His expression went blank, my indifference had caught him completely off guard. He tried again, coaxing. What do you have to do? I could drive you, then swing by the wedding afterward if there's time. I was already annoyed. Paperwork for moving abroad, tons left to finalize. I lied, the documents were nearly done, but it was the perfect excuse. He pressed his lips together. Then I'll go with Sophie? He watched my face, hunting for any flicker of jealousy. I just gathered the takeout trash. Sure, go together. He fell silent, then asked as I headed for the kitchen, you're not mad? I answered without turning. Mad about what? You said you and Sophie are ancient history, she's only a friend from the old crowd. If you're both attending the same wedding, why shouldn't you ride together? Haley, let's talk properly, I cut him off. You were up all night taking care of someone, get some rest. I've got work too, won't disturb you. I took my laptop into the study, closed the door, and started binge-watching my drama. We drifted through a few more strained days. When Saturday arrived, I got up to make breakfast and found the dining table already set. Julian smiled. Eat up, afterward I'll drive you to handle that paperwork. I'd forgotten my lie and felt a twinge of embarrassment, then decided I could simply name some random office and have him drop me off, less arguing that way. Outside, he reached to shield my head while opening the passenger door, a gesture so automatic it felt staged. The memory hit me anyway. Once I'd worked late into a torrential storm and begged Julian to pick me up. He'd scoffed, what, a grown woman afraid of the dark? It's only rain, don't you have an umbrella? That night I learned that while I wrung rainwater from my coat on the subway, Sophie had been riding in Julian's car, air conditioning on, bubble tea in hand. When I'd mentioned craving bubble tea, he'd lecture me about consumer traps and shallow cravings. So I got my license and bought my own car, one I'd already consigned to storage because of the overseas transfer. Otherwise I could have driven myself and dodged this ride. All the way downtown he kept fishing for conversation. I answered in monosyllables, grateful when Sophie's call finally interrupted. Julian hesitated, hand hovering over the screen. I leaned over and picked it up. Sophie's plaintive voice spilled out. Julian, I can't get a ride, the soonest car is 40 minutes away. Could you pick me up? He wavered. It's fine. I'll explain to Wesley, he'll understand if you're late. Had he just turned Sophie down, was he possessed? Sophie seemed equally stunned. 2 beats of silence passed before the familiar whine crept back in. But it's Wesley's wedding, I can't walk in halfway. Never mind, I'll try a gypsy cab. I glanced at Julian's conflicted face and realized how surreal it was that I was even in his car. Since I wanted out anyway, I might as well make the exit graceful. Let me off at the next subway entrance, I said. Guilt flickered across his eyes. Are you sure? It's just the subway, broad daylight. I'll be fine. Go, she's waiting. He pulled over, still hesitant. You really don't mind? No problems here. Move, or she'll find that gypsy cab. After he drove off, I wandered the neighborhood and treated myself to a long lunch. In a few days I'd be leaving the country, might as well hoard some local flavors. I came home late. The apartment was empty, no surprise, Julian would still be toasting Wesley at the reception. Next morning I walked into the living room and found him motionless on the couch. My steps drew his gaze, his eyes locked on mine. I defaulted to small talk. Back so early? He didn't answer, only studied me with a wounded look. Finally he spoke, hoarse. You never touched the paperwork. Yesterday. You were just shopping, weren't you? I blinked, surprised. How did you know? He dropped his head. Around midnight I saw a street-style post from an influencer. You were in the background, timestamped right after I left you at the subway. I had nothing to say, and no desire to say it. I don't know how much time passed before Julian finally spoke, softly. Can we talk, Haley? It was time to end this properly. I sat down on the couch. All right. Talk. He looked straight into my eyes, deadly serious. I've cut off Sophie. Let's go back to the way we were, okay? I was startled. He gave a bitter little laugh. I know you've been unhappy about Sophie and me. I've thought it through. Before, I really didn't watch where the line was. I made you hurt, and that was my fault. I'm willing to change. I was a jerk, taking for granted that you loved me and would never leave, so I didn't care how you felt. But I know I was wrong. Give me one more chance. Let's be like we used to, okay? So he had always known exactly what he was doing, and he could have severed ties with Sophie any time, he just hadn't wanted to. I smiled. It's not necessary. Actually, I don't care anymore. He grew agitated. You don't believe me? I'll prove it right now. He dialed Sophie in front of me and put the call on speaker. The moment it connected, Sophie's playful voice rang out. It's only been one night and you already miss me, Julian? Words that used to make him smile fondly now made him frown hard. Sophie, I'm calling to make this clear. I have a girlfriend. From now on we keep our distance. If there's nothing important, don't contact me again. Julian? Are you joking? Sophie's voice trembled, thick with grievance. What happened? Last night we were all having fun, and first thing this morning you hit me with this. Suddenly her tone shifted, artificially calm. Oh, I get it. Your high-maintenance current girlfriend, Haley, is throwing another tant. Right. I knew it. Hilarious, haha. Julian cut her off. I'm not joking, and Haley didn't ask me to do this. I just feel, honestly, we've never kept proper boundaries. That has to stop. Also, Haley is my girlfriend. I hope you'll respect her from now on. That's all. Goodbye. The instant he hung up, the phone began to vibrate nonstop. He simply powered it off. Then he looked at me ingratiatingly. Haley, see? We can still. I stared at him, dazed, and finally sighed. I'm moving abroad. Let's part on good, don't, he begged, eyes pleading. Don't say it. You're going abroad. I. He drew a deep breath, as though making a colossal decision. I'll go with you. I won't deny those words sent a tidal wave through me. I knew how brilliantly his career was blossoming here, how every thread of his network was rooted in this country, and now, for me, he was willing to abandon it all. When I didn't answer, Julian simply pulled me into a tight embrace, voice breaking against my ear. Haley, I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me, okay? Every scene I'd lived with him flashed before my eyes, my heart ached all over again, yet my mind grew clearer by the second. Julian, let's break up. 09. After that day I moved out of the apartment and checked into a hotel. Julian didn't try to stop me, he only asked me to wait, said he had one project to finish and then he'd quit and come abroad with me. The project would take 4 or 5 months, just enough to meet the 6-month window I'd once mentioned. I offered no opinion. From that day on, everybody who used to look down on me took turns playing envoy, apologizing for past attitudes and telling me Julian was driving himself to the brink of illness rushing the project, just to clear his calendar so he could leave the country with me. They hoped I'd forgive him, urged me to persuade him to rest. I didn't answer, I simply blocked them all. Another Saturday came. I wheeled my carry-on to the gate. My phone was cluttered with Julian's good morning, good afternoon, and good night check-ins, peppered with random bits of his day. I flicked through the iMessage thread that once showed blocks of green bubbles, now it was a solid wall of white. A curious feeling. Suddenly a new message popped up. You leaving the country today? Didn't you say a few more months? Don't abandon me, please. I looked one last time at the chat, tapped a few times, and blacklisted him. Haley! A hoarse roar came from behind me. I turned. Hair disheveled, face haggard, clothes rumpled, Julian, a sight I'd never seen. He sprinted toward me, gasping for breath when he reached me, then burst into tears. Haley, I beg you, please don't leave me. I really know I was wrong. I've cut Sophie off completely. We'll never speak again, no matter what happens to her, I swear I won't care. My vision blurred, perhaps it was only the sigh of a love ending. I watched the great Julian reduced to this tearful plea, and said softly, this is the end, Julian. I left him standing there, hands over his face, shoulders shaking, and walked through the boarding gate. From this day on, we occupy separate skies, our paths will never cross again. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you liked it, please like and share with friends. We look forward to your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more great stories. See you next time.